Spring is here at Descanso Gardens outside Los Angeles.
Hi and welcome back to my channel, California Garden Goddess. I'm Anna and today we're back at Descanso Gardens. It's absolutely beautiful here today. We're getting close to the end of April, but it's actually Earth Day today. So I'm so excited to be able to visit this garden and show you all the beautiful flowers here at Descanso Gardens today.
Now, the beauty starts before you even enter the gates of Descanso with the wisteria, climbing roses, and lilacs all outside the gates. But when you walk in, you're going to see the sign, and it actually tells you about habitat, which, just as a reminder to people, I just want to let you know when you visit gardens, you really want to be respectful. And just remember that this habitat is actually, or this area of the Descanso Gardens is actually habitat for wildlife. And we are only the visitors. This is really the animal's home. So it's illegal and harmful to people and wildlife to approach, feed, handle, capture, or harass any animal. So if you do see an animal, please keep a safe distance. Getting too close, feeding, and touching an animal are all things that can put you and the animal in danger. Make sure you keep your kids safe from animals as well. And as you wander, please be cautious. Some animals, especially snakes, they like to hide in bushes and rocky areas. If you do see an animal like a snake or something scarier than that, hopefully not, you can always visit the visitor center to learn more about those animals or to report an animal sighting. So we're going to head and take a quick glance at what used to be the tulip garden. They have some pansies and foxglove, some ranunculus growing there now. It doesn't look nearly as magnificent as it looked just a couple weeks ago, and it just shows you that the garden is always changing at Descanso, and actually all the gardens in Southern California really change throughout the year, so it's really worth it if you can and you love gardens to try to get a membership to the gardens, because then you can go back whenever you like and see how everything changes. That's one of my favorite things and definitely a good tip if you do love gardens. The great thing about joining a garden in your area is that it might be part of the American Horticultural Society's Reciprocal Garden Network. Now, this network has more than 360 different horticultural institutions in 48 states, and you can see more information on the AHS website with a link below. But basically, if you're a member of these gardens, you can visit other gardens that are in the network as long as they're not within 90 miles of your home garden that you, not your home garden, but the garden that you chose your membership. So for Descanso, it doesn't work. The membership doesn't work for the California Botanic Garden or the LA County Arboretum or the South Coast Botanic Garden. But if you go somewhere farther away, like San Diego, then that's more than 90 miles, then that could work for you there. I would love to hear more about your favorite garden that you're a member of, if or a garden that you recommend, because I love visiting botanic gardens. I visited most of the ones in Southern California. I've been to Bouchard Gardens in Victoria, British Columbia. I've been to gardens in Scotland and in England. I just love gardens. So if you have any gardens that you'd love to recommend, please leave a comment below. I'd love to hear it. And yeah, chime in. I'd love to hear which garden is your favorite. So as we head into the rose garden, I really think that the rose garden is at its peak in the summer. So it's just getting started right now. They plant, the gardeners at Descanso, they like to plant a mixture of different flowering perennials and annuals. And I know that things reseed themselves and come up. And it's just a beautiful palette of all these different colors. It's a total country cottage garden. And it really reminds me of my own garden because I have colors everywhere and I love it. So, yeah, beautiful irises, beautiful roses, and just gorgeous places to sit, take a photo, relax, and take in the beauty of Descanso Gardens. we're about to head into the most beautiful part of the rose garden, which is actually, or at this time, I mean, which is actually close to the bathroom. So it's kind of a funny spot, but just just bear with me. This beautiful spot is something that I just love seeing in person. It was even more brilliant with the beautiful pinks. And these are flowering crabapple trees. So I really love the crabapple trees because we had them planted when I was a girl. We had 3 different crabapple trees, one planted for each of us, 3 girls, and they would flower every spring. And I have to admit that we would um, take the fruits. They were extremely sour, so we would never eat them. But one of the fun things that we did as kids was throw them in the street and watch people run over the crab apples in the street. So, not really my finest moment, but I really, really love those crabapple trees. So, as we head around the rose garden, we're going to see a bunch of people taking in those beautiful views of the rose garden. Look at these irises. They're so beautiful. I really love the irises. I love how they bloom. I think that that might be some milkweed next to them. So that will bloom later and bring in monarch butterflies. So that's amazing. Look at this bed. Isn't this bed beautiful? I love how it looks offset against those crabapple trees. And then you see the fountain. Oh, it's just a beautiful place to visit. Now, I really loved walking under the canopy of the oak tree. Look how massive these canopies are of these oak trees. They're huge. And it just reminds me of what California must have been like before we were all here. And we're going to see some more roses, more irises. These are just beautiful. I think that these are the irises that if you cut them back, deadhead them, I think that they'll have more in the fall. I could be wrong, but let me know if you know in the comments. Yeah, sorry for spinning around a little bit quickly there. Look at how beautiful these flowers are underneath the shade of the sycamore tree. And that's a nice archway to take a photo. And look at this beautiful bench to rest on. And as we keep walking through the rose garden, it's just very extensive. You get to see some lavender right there. And yeah, beautiful, beautiful time to visit the rose garden. So as we leave the rose garden, we're going to head off into look and see a little bit of where the tulips used to be. They do plant other flowers there, but I really know this as where the tulips are during the spring. It looks a little bit sparse, but it's going to grow in, and we're going to have more beautiful, beautiful plants.
We're standing under a giant sycamore tree as we explore Descanso Gardens a little bit more. Next, we're going to check out the California Gardens, which is the native California plants.
I love visiting the native parts of Descanso Garden because you get to see the native plants that were around before we started bringing in the plants that we like. Now, if you want a spot to rest, if you aren't able to make it up around the hills to see the loop of the California native plants or the California Gardens at Descanso Gardens, then you can rest by these beautiful redbuds and take a nice break in this beautiful pergola surrounded by sage and a beautiful view of the mountains. Now, as we head up the hill to check out the native gardens, I am just going to remind you again about that warning about snakes. I also don't want you to approach animals. I made sure to film the animals from a safe distance, and yeah, we don't want to bother any animals while we're out and about. So as we walk up the hill, we're going to see a lot of purple sage blooming. That's something that really, really looks nice on a hillside. And that looks like black sage back there. And then some more purple sage at the entrance right there. So It's really beautiful. Now, I love seeing the hummingbirds going for the different flowers, and look at how gorgeous it is under the trees, and look at how beautiful it is right now at Descanso Gardens. So we're just going to take a nice walk through paths around the native garden. It's so beautiful right now in the spring. I love walking on the hillsides and really getting grounded by walking on the dirt paths. Now, make sure that you wear appropriate footwear if you want to go on these dirt trails, but there is also there's a paved path that you can stay on as well if you don't want to take the dirt trails like I like to. One of the things I love about Descanso is that they always leave plenty of places for you to sit and rest. There are lots of benches throughout the gardens for you to rest upon and for you to also reflect upon the beauty of nature. Now, this beautiful tree is actually a flannel bush. It looks more like a tree to me, but these have beautiful flowers and are a highlight of the garden. Now, I think this bird is a dark-eyed junco, but it wasn't popping up easily on my Merlin ID app, and I think that's because it's rare in this area. So let me know if you think this is a junco or not. I'm not sure exactly. I'm a fairly experienced birder, but I haven't seen everything, and I'm sure you haven't either. So yeah, let me know what you think that bird is in the comments. This part of the California garden is beautiful. You get to have a lot of shade from the tall oak trees, and it's a really nice place to go for a walk. One thing about Southern California that's actually pretty rare to find, at least where I grew up, were shady spots to walk in the summer. When it's 100 degrees, you do not want to be walking in the broad sunlight or in the broad daylight and get sunburned because it's unpleasant. So, we're about to see some beautiful California natives that are actually threatened. And here they are, California Deadlia. Now, California Deadlia are a type of succulent. So you're going to see some coming up soon. See those guys? Yes, those are the California Deadlia. And they're actually pretty rare. So these are all microchipped. And they are, make sure that you don't, there's no theft. Oh, look how beautiful that manzanita was. And then now look at these California poppies. Oh, I love California poppies. It's not a super bloom year this year, unfortunately. It sounds like we had way too many weeds from um, last year's huge rain events. And this year's huge rain events, unfortunately, didn't give us a bunch of California poppies outside of these botanic gardens, but they are still beautiful to see, even in small amounts. California sunflower, those are something that are you'll see often at these parks, and that's a big manzanita. Manzanita grow very, very slowly, so that's impressive to see those giant manzanita at Descanso Gardens. Look at these oak trees. Now, one thing about oak trees, they actually create their own ecosystem underneath. So when you see oak trees, you'll see other kinds of plants that only grow underneath oak trees. They're amazing. I love oak trees and I love walking in the shade of them. It makes me feel almost like a this is kind of embarrassing, maybe like I'm a hobbit or an elf or something, and walking amongst the trees that speak to you. Um, I don't know. I think oak trees do speak to me, and yeah, that's a little bit embarrassing. But look at how beautiful these iris are. I think those are a kind of Douglas iris or a kind of native iris. So those are beautiful. And if you contrast those with the other irises that you saw earlier in the rose garden, you'll see that they're much simpler, smaller, and more delicate, but they're California natives, so there's something that are great for our pollinators, and you'll wind up seeing lots of birds like I just saw. You'll see lots of birds when you go to the native parts of the gardens because this is where they're finding their food that they like to eat. So um, early in the spring, in February, when the manzanitas are first blooming, that helps the hummingbirds with their migration. And now that there are hummingbirds everywhere, you'll see them all over the gardens and going to different plants everywhere. I didn't get to shot of one this time because they are just really busy raising their babies and getting on with their spring business. So, cute animal alert. We're about to see some super cute animals, including a ground squirrel collecting food and some other animals as well. Now, you may not think that lizards are cute, but I love them and they're wonderful for the garden. And look at these beautiful goslings with their parents. Oh my gosh, how cute. I counted 5. How many do you see? Oh, as we head out of the California Native Garden, they have some beautiful plants on the outskirts, and you'll see a nice pond down at the bottom of the hill. Everybody enjoys watching the wildlife that loves the pond.
We
And
were here about a month ago and this was covered with tulips. Now they've replanted and they have other bulbs coming up like ranunculus. It's really pretty right now, but yes, it's definitely in between the tulip time.
ranunculus do really well in Southern California and last for quite a bit, so they're one of my favorites to plant. Now we're going to check out the Japanese garden. Now, if you saw my episodes from early in their season, you'll notice that we still have camellias blooming. The cherry blossoms are not blooming, but look at those Japanese maples. Oh, they're adding that touch of red color that we aren't seeing the pinks from the cherry trees anymore, but now we're seeing more of the reds. The camellias are still blooming. Now, that's amazing, and I have to admit that it's not admit, but I have to say that it's probably because of the gardening staff. I've seen them out there deadheading the camellias, and when you do that, you make the bloom season last a lot longer. So it's a really good way to keep any of your flowering plants blooming. Deadheading really helps. Look at those. Those red camellias are still blooming. So we are going to head past that beautiful. Oh, look at how that nice creeping Japanese maple. So we're going to head past that and we're going to head over to see the lilac.
We're here in the lilac garden at Descanso Gardens, and look how beautiful the lilacs are around us. I've already seen a mourning cloak butterfly, a tiger swallowtail, I think another kind of swallowtail that I couldn't identify off the top of my head. But look at these beautiful lilacs. A lot of these were developed for Southern California, so they actually don't need as many chill hours as normal lilacs. But we have a nice, beautiful bloom of lilacs. This is the time to get to Descanso for seeing lilacs.
It's kind of hard to see here, but there are 2 different kinds of swallowtails, basically like battling it out for the best lilacs, I guess. I don't know what they're doing, but maybe they're trying to see which kind of butterfly they are. But I love seeing the beautiful flower butterflies all over the lilac flowers. Now, the lilacs in the garden, they range from white to pink to purple, and they are just gorgeous. They smell amazing. This is one of those times where I wish I could like have smell-o-vision and actually have you experience the scent of lilacs, but you know, any kind of like fake lilac scent, it doesn't it doesn't do it justice. I love the smell of real fresh lilacs in the spring. It is amazing. They are so fragrant and they're just beautiful. And I love seeing these. So rare in Southern California. All right, so this was my favorite part of the entire day, seeing these beautiful butterflies, the mourning cloak butterfly and this tiger swallowtail that's just resting in the lilacs. Such a beautiful time, and I just wanted to show you Magnolia. This is where you can get food and drinks during your trip to Descanso Gardens. And thank you so much for watching our video today. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And yeah, thank you so much for joining us on our trip of Descanso Gardens in La Canada Flintridge. Thank you so much and catch you next video.